What's up, guys? And before this video starts, I just want to say that this is a new trailer for Black Ops 3 and it is presented by IGN. So guys, enjoy.
It's got like a little thing.
Welcome back to IGN Live at Gamescom, presented by Homefront: The Revolution. I'm Max Scoville. Joining me, David Vonderhaar from Treyarch. You're showing off some stuff from Call of Duty Black Ops 3, and you're doing kind of an esports initiative?
Yeah, this.
For a change,
Yeah, for a change.
It's a growing kind of community.
We've never not done this. No, look, it's what's pretty interesting about coming to Cologne and coming to Gamescom this time around is that this has brought the esports agenda with us. So maybe previous years you'd learn all about multiplayer, but this time around we actually have this time dedicated and focused to make sure people understand what's important to us about this esports initiative and how to grow Call of Duty esports. And at the very top is we took a really big hardcore look at how you will be ranked when you play Black Ops 3 multiplayer. It's with a new feature that we call Arena. And Arena, you only are ranked on wins and wins alone. So if you win and you string together progressive wins, you will go up in rank. And if you lose, and lose games in a row, you will step down in rank. So this is an individual ranking, and you just have to play, and it's very simple, very black and white. Wins and losses is how you determine your rank. No sort of secret mathematical number behind the scenes, no points, no separate ladders. Yeah. So it's important for us to kind of try to make this initiative a lot more accessible and understandable to people and sort of demystify what goes on in a competitive setting.
Okay, and you were telling me a bit about this. People are able to basically vote on what comes into a match?
Yeah, this is pretty cool. We call it the bans and protect system. So what this means is at the start of the game, every player has a vote. And what they can do with that vote is say, I would like to use my vote to ban the UAV so that it can't be used by anybody else. And then the next vote, someone might say, I would like to protect the man of war, meaning nobody can ban the man of war anywhere else in the voting process. So this continues for every player, team 1, team 2, down the line, until you go through everything, and then you have to make adjustments to your classes after that based on what was protected or banned.
It's kind of like it's like picking a map, but kind of expanded to just the whole rule.
Yeah, I mean, right now all the content's in this system, right? So you're talking about 100 pieces of content: weapons, score streaks, perks, equipment, specialist stuff. Like the whole thing is kind of laid out there for the world to sort of experience. Like, what does it mean for us to have a competitive match? And I might choose to use my vote to ban something you're really good at, right? And I've seen players choose to use their vote to protect something some other guy on their team is really good at. There's this whole kind of interesting chess match that's developing at the competitive, this is at the competitive level, right?
Well, I love it. It still has that kind of underlying kind of like playground rule set where, it's like you're at no backsies, this is kind of.
Sure, right? So, it extends to the specialists. So the specialists are these playable characters in multiplayer. There's 9 of them. There's a weapon, there's an ability, and they're designed to sort of fit in that power band between created class content and score streak content. You earn it over time and with score. So everybody has like this moment to shine in the game, right? So specialists can really spike the agenda for competitive in a really big way because they're pretty powerful abilities. So on the competitive front, what we do is we call the specialist draft, and that means that let's say that you picked Ruin and you picked Overdrive, and we were on the same team, and that's who you drafted. So that's you, and that's who you will be in the game, but no one else on your team can be Ruin Overdrive. So you can't stack the game in some kind of strange way on the competitive front.
And conceivably, there are different specialists that sort of are meant to tackle each other, basically.
Yeah, it's really fun this way because on the competitive front, what it means is a team of players are going to have to decide earlier on as part of the meta, as part of the strategy for equipping for the match, how they're going to do this. So the best, what they call OBJ or objective players, they might need a particular specialist with a particular ability, whereas what they call the slayers, which are the guys who are really good with the gun skill, they would go ahead and take something that's probably a specialist weapon. So I think it's really interesting because it makes the roles of players a little more concrete, and it gives the people at home, which is really important to us, is like making this a great spectating experience. It gives the people at home, you can really rally and understand, like, okay, I understand that this is now an objective player, not just because I know the player, but because of what he's selecting. And what he's selecting I can see because it's on my screen and it's real big, right? Because you can see these characters visualized. So it's a really fun part of what's happening. And it's early days, of course, because we just put the agenda out there yesterday. But we're already seeing some really interesting stuff with it, which makes the whole experience fun to spectate, which is a big part of what we're doing.
Well, one thing that's really cool about just esports is it is as big now as it ever has been. It's constantly growing. How much kind of feedback are you taking from that community, and like, are you kind of farming, crowdsourcing, feedback, or what's the
Yeah, so you have to make a competitively balanced game regardless, right?
Yeah.
So it's on us as the game developers to make a competitive game, to tune the game so that it works competitively. And we have, personal and professional relationships with not just players, but leagues. And there's a whole huge sub-community here on the esports front that we find really fascinating to engage and talk to. I spoke to 8 pro players yesterday. I spoke to professional casters yesterday. They're already giving me feedback, right? So it's like a fun dialogue, right? So you have to be very careful here. I mean, Call of Duty, you have to sort of try to bring these universes together between all the pub players, all the people who don't play, professional or competitive, and try to bring these worlds together, one step at a time. And that's what specialist drafting and protects and bans is really, I think, going to help us do, is try to merge these two words, right? In the competitive front, things that are random are not seen as competitive, like a care package. Right. But a care package is just fun. Yeah. It's fun to sometimes get something good from a care package, right? So you have to work really hard to bring these worlds together, and we've been at that for a while, and we'll keep at that. And
Call of Duty is like it's the biggest series in the world, and it's always kind of a matter of striking a balance between how do you take a step forward but without completely upsetting the apple cart. How do you please, hardcore fans and, more casual players?
Right. This is a great problem to have, right? There's a lot of people who play. They're all a little bit different. There's a lot of game, and not just multiplayer, obviously, with zombies and the co-op campaign that's coming for Black Ops 3. There's a lot of different people. They all have slightly different tastes, and this is not something to be upset about.
Yeah, no, that's cool. This might seem out of left field. I know that Call of Duty started showing up at the X Games. Is that a thing that's continuing?
Yeah, I don't have any information about what will happen. So we are looking very, very hardcore right now back at home about what they call the league season, the league rules. So how many events, where are they, how long is it, what does the championship part of it look like? We have a little bit of time before the game comes out on November 6th, and we're using the time between now and then to get that right and make sure everybody's happy with it.
Cool. I mean, that's got to be such a strange process, because you're competitive Call of Duty, like esports. It's like if you slightly changed a basketball each season.
Yeah.
If it had just a little bit different weight to it,
Yeah, it's actually very challenging, of course, right? But there's lessons to be learned every year. For example, the previous game, Advanced Warfare, introduced this game mode called Uplink, which was very popular with both the players, and the competitors. So we took that mode and incorporated it into Black Ops 3, right? So there's good that comes out of it too, right? We wouldn't necessarily have thought about Uplink or decided to make Uplink. So that helps the sport grow, because now you have a fun, accessible game mode that didn't exist, that now exists and will probably exist going forward until something good comes along that can replace it. It's right now one of the best things to watch as a player, as a spectator, because it's such an accessible mode. You have the satellite drone, and it's like basketball, right? And you're going and you're running and you're dunking it into the satellite, and it's something that people can really relate to. So yes, it's challenging when there's a different developer every year, but it has that benefit too.
Yeah, and this is the longest time that a Call of Duty game's ever been in development, because you're working with bigger machines.
Yeah,
right?
3-year development for Treyarch. It's our first 3-year title. It takes a while to learn how to use that time wisely.
Yeah, and how much kind of attention do you pay to what's happening with the other studios' Call of Duty games?
Yeah,
you can kind of take notes?
Yeah, we try to pay attention, of course. I mean, we're also pretty heads down and focused on what it is that you need to make and do. So in our case, again, it's really about your personal relationships. It has less to do with some kind of formal structure. It's an independent studio model. The developers have creative input and control over their own efforts. And then you have personal relationships. I have personal relationships with people who work at Sledgehammer. I have personal relationships with folks who work at Infinity Ward. The world would like to cast that as some kind of rivalry. It's not a rivalry. We're all trying to make the best Call of Duty game that we can.
Yeah, I mean, you're sort of like teammates in a sense. You're kind of switching in and out.
I learned some great stuff from both of those studios.
Yeah, what could you give an example, or is it like a piece of feedback that you thought was really interesting?
Yeah, so we'll exchange notes all the time on this kind of stuff. I think the one of the really interesting things is, for us about what the philosophical approach was to combat movement, and where we didn't agree with that and how we would do with that, which helps you evolve what you're trying to do. And and as long as you're pushing the whole thing in the right direction, then there's a lot to be learned from sort of studying the decisions that were made from other games in the franchise.
Now, this is like Call of Duty. It's like this massive brand, and you have 3 separate companies working on it. Is there like one kind of like constant style guide, and who's in charge of that? Who calls the shots?
Well, so Activision has the independent studio model, which really means that every developer has sort of creative control in it over the product that they're making and the game that they're making. So there's definitely some people at Activision who try to look after the franchise and the franchise plan. That makes perfect sense. But we're really focused on Black Ops and the Black Ops series, and that's distinctly Treyarch, and it has a distinctly Treyarch way of doing things, and that's really what helps things, because then things can be different and evolve from year to year and game to game, and that's a good thing.
Yeah. Now you've got the game comes out November 6th, right?
That's right.
You've got a beta on the way, right?
Yeah, beta, it's like 7 days away, so it's coming up real fast here.
How do people get in on that if they haven't already?
Yeah, so if you pre-order Call of Duty Black Ops 3, then you'll have the ability to download the beta. We expect the beta to be massive. I mean, I was looking at translation stuff this morning from all the languages that it's being translated into. So it's pretty fascinating. There hasn't been a beta for Call of Duty since our World at War. That was also a Treyarch game. A public beta like this anyway, something as large scale. The beta means a lot to us. There's a small army of data people helping us try to analyze the game
I
in the
imagine
best
there's
way.
quite a bit to parse there.
So we got these really robust dashboard tools, so we can see how, are the guns performing the way that we expect them to? Are they living within their power band? I mean, it's a beta, so it's like an actual proper beta. So we have to take all that information that we learn about how the game is being played competitively, make sure we roll that back into the final. So we're really stoked about this. It's like we want to do a public beta.
Awesome.
It's good.
Well, David, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
This is PS4, Xbox One, and PC. And then is it last gen too, or is it?
Yeah, so Treyarch is
Right.
making PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and PC, and Activision is working with some partners for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3.
Okay. Yeah, it's the latest Call of Duty game. It's going to be huge, and you can shoot your friends. Well, thank you for coming by. We've
thanks.
got lots more Gamescom stuff coming up, so don't go anywhere.